eat much of it. Geez, what's going on? Everyone on a diet?
Well, we had to leave some for you guys.
Thank you very much for leaving us. Good. Debbie made it, probably.
Yep.
You did?
Yeah, who made it?
Right, Debbie.
Think so.
Your wife made it, right, the cheesecake? She hasn't disappointed us all yet,
That's right.
not at all. So really, I'll have a motion to go out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
We need Tanya.
I need to know what time it is.
8:23.
Thank you.
Clock, they got hidden.
I made the motion.
Okay.
I made the motion to go out of executive.
And Dave
Dave
is seconded.
seconded.
And all in favor?
All in favor?
You did it.
Alright.
No, I need it for this. And I left
Okay.
my cell phone in the car because I knew it wouldn't
Well,
work.
last week, we had a special meeting on the possibility of building an addition on the town garage. I thought it was, let's see, Donnie, Brian, and Tony were there. And we had good discussion, I think. More has developed since then. I talked to Crown Towers. They were there today. I met them at 10 o'clock, the engineer, and there was another service coming on to the cell tower. And does anybody have any just guesses on what kind of size service they got to have for, let's say, Verizon and AT&T, you know, the amperage?
Pretty massive.
200 amp services for each service, which shocked the hell out of me, I'm sorry. So they're talking, we talked about the building. Nobody can build there as long as the power lines are overhead. And so on Friday, Dwight and I were there talking with Neil Carpenter. He's a new sales rep for Morton. And he said, he couldn't build within 9 feet of the electric service and stuff, but they couldn't build anyway with the power still overhead, no matter what. So we've talked. I've just spent too darn long today with NYSEG. We're trying to get the NYSEG engineers, and I have got a work order now, and I got an engineer I talked to, and I talked to Chad Trimble, because he works with the Crown cell towers anyway. He puts in their services and stuff. And they suggested, and I asked her if we could, is put a meter bank up, like six separate meters, all like between the cell tower and Delhi Telephone Company out in that area. And she thought it was the right thing to do. And we wouldn't have any meters or power poles or anything by the town building. So that would open that up. And NYSEG thinks it's something that could work. One issue we do have, I know I talked to Chad tonight before I came to the meeting, and right now the town has 3-phase service. And NYSEG, this Paul Fisher is the engineer, said that it would be quite expensive to put the 3-phase around on Delhi Telephone Company poles. A regular service wouldn't cost too much, he said, but 3-phase would be on the expensive side. And Chad and I talked, and I've always had the thought, what do we need 3-phase for anyway? We got a compressor that runs on 3-phase. That's the only thing, isn't it, Paul?
As far as I know.
So I think it'd be a lot simpler to, Chad said you could have a transformer converter, or I said you also could buy a single-phase motor to go on that, and Chad said that would be nice because we bought a generator that is single-phase, so we can't use a generator without, and have the compressor without transformers or something. So I felt really good after talking with Chad. Boy, it sounds like it'd be less expensive to do it for the town. I think Crown is going to eat some of the bill too, because I said, we can dig the trench and stuff, you know, get the power from the pole underground to the meter bank and stuff like that. And she said, well, geez, we'll figure out what that would be worth, you know. And I said, I thought we'd be willing to put some money into getting it all changed to get it cleaned up. Get it.
Well, it gives you more room for your addition.
Right, right. So, I mean, I think it really was a good visit with Tammy. She's from Tammy Nosk, Nosk is her name. She actually has a summer home or something over in Downsville. But she lives in, Newburgh. That's where she's at, where she lives out of.
Did she say who the new carrier was?
I didn't get that out of her, no. I never even thought to ask her what it was. The guy was there measuring to make sure there was room. What they'd like to do is add about 10 more feet of enclosed area. You know, it would be right on the edge of the driveway, which I told her we'd have to talk with the Valley Telephone Company, but I didn't think that would be because she said there could be one or two more carriers after this one, which more the merrier.
Okay.
But, you know, we had some designs of the program before, and I don't know if anybody else did any scratching to floor plans, but, you know, it's a venture going forward. How fast? Probably not near as fast as we want to, but we haven't heard anything from Gary. Have you heard anything, Don, from Gary about his concerns?
No.
Okay, yes, Don.
One of the things we kicked around, just a curiosity, and Mark has gone out, you guys are going to feel, is there any possibility of bringing it out towards the pond? In other words, how much space do you need between that and the pond? Like right now, there's kind of parking along there. But just as a food for thought, because you could gain a few feet by coming out,
Well,
and then you could also have a little alcove over the current entryway. It's like when you're waiting outside and it's raining, it's not very pleasant. Just a thought.
well, some of the, I think we can get to 25 feet, you know, out from the garage out.
Right.
And-
He's talking toward the
Yeah,
pond.
forward. Well, I
Just
did
that.
some scribbling on a floor plan. And as you were wondering if you'd use the addition as a, you know, but I turned it so all the front, you know, instead like a 20 by 40 foot area, you know, for length, because it's the room you need lengthwise, you know, for the court, meeting room, whatever, and then have the town clerk and code enforcement officer and the judge's quarters and a committee or a meeting room and the clerk's room, you know, off in the back. But if we can, and what I would like to do, since we've got to have a way around the building because we have the exit from the break room, and that's a fire exit too, right? Paul, is build in the subframe of the building a 4-foot walkway around the outside edge, and have your posts actually, you know, supporting your railing, so you're not falling off the thing. You know,
Give you a place to wait out of the rain.
and have the roof over top of it. You know, the roof would be, you know, the rafters would go out the full 25 feet or 26 feet, whatever it be.
I don't think coming toward the pond is a good idea, only because we have the handicap spots that are there now, and technically they're supposed to pull straight into them. It's already a bottleneck, and when we come in with a plow and a wing, if there's cars parked there, it's already tight. There's a lot of times there's car parked on both sides, and you can't get through.
Signs, no parking.
Well, if you bring that building out, you're
Right.
creating even more of a bottleneck than we already have. And I don't think that's a good idea.
Thought, you know, you said, what about the addition or whatever, but I thought if we turned it and had a 20 by 40 plus, you know, foot room, it would give, the length of it would be important. And more important, you know, that's where you might benefit. And, you know, as you said before, you know, we got the pellet stove there. You know, get that out of there, and if we get offices and stuff, files might be able to get out of the room too, and it would open up space.
I think you kick it around, we're going to come up with a good idea.
Unless you filled part of the pond, and that would be the.
That would give us
if you
more room.
filled-
That would be,
Yeah, talk to the Army Corps of Engineers.
Right.
They're kind of dragging their feet on that. Was there any other questions to that? I think,
I pulled out the handout that Delaware County, that Delaware Engineering
Yep.
gave us last
Right.
time. They
Yep.
did. And they have in there a list of what are really guidelines for the court. And I went on the court website
Mhm.
and under judges, chief judges rules, they are
Right.
specifically guidelines. They don't say requirements. But
okay.
they did have a note in their handout, the state has to approve arrangements during the court.
Oh,
And I
okay.
presume since Delaware has designed these buildings before, they're right about that.
I would assume, because he was up to date on it last year when we spoke with him about
Right.
any and all the grant money that was available.
Right.
When he came and gave that demonstration.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
there is court grant money, and there also, if we have space, specific room for records, New York Archives has grants
mhm.
to help states, to help
Right.
towns
We've
with
got,
their records.
we
And they're in
have,
the tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
So if we...
Well, that would be, I mean, if this progresses, you know, if we can get the electric service away from the building, so we could actually go to 54 feet deep instead of, you know, what, 47, you know, beyond, why don't, what, the building is 54, isn't it, or 56?
I think it's 54.
You know,
That
so-
might be 54 inside, it might be 56.
So, I mean, if we can, you know, that would be on the other side of the fire exit, but that would be space that could be used for file, you know,
Yeah.
filing and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's, you know, we're open to, you know, suggestions, you know, any kind of, I've got to get a hold of Dave Oman, who came to the board last fall. He's a neighbor up on Heathen Hill. He said he's done
started
it.
his own engineering, he's
Yeah.
broke away from Cedarwood, and
Oh, he
now he's
did, oh.
Delaware Engineering,
Oh, okay.
but they're still in Oneonta, but he's
Okay.
basically, I think with one other guy, kind of broke off and started their own
Okay,
engineering.
but I would, you know, just as a courtesy, because he did come to the board and showed interest, and, you know, we ought to at least, you know, do that, but I, you know, it's, we're going forward, I guess, looking for improvement, hopefully the, you know, if we can, the cell service is gonna maybe speed up NICEAG. I mean, how long did it take them to get poles up and one set of power wires run? I mean, you know, I don't know how long, it could be spring before they want to tear down the wires, so we can't do a damn thing anyway. I mean, I don't know, I'm just, you know, I'm just hoping that maybe this all just gets spurred and
Well,
going.
if you switch to a two-phase instead of a three-phase,
They might just have
the
to.
wire, I mean, I don't know how much more
Right,
they have to really do.
just maybe they might have to have your wire up,
Right.
right, instead, right? Yeah, I mean, that may make it simpler too, you're right, Paul. Okay, yes, ma'am.
The last scheduled meeting I was at was August 7th, which is the regular scheduled meeting. I come home tonight, my granddaughter started kindergarten, so we were there, and I look on the website, and I see there was a meeting on August 28th.
Yep.
It was advertised
And the Walton
where,
Reporter.
Walton Reporter. When was this, when did all this just all of a sudden became such an emergency that you needed a special meeting and couldn't be at a regular monthly meeting?
Well, I thought it needed to be started, I mean, it's something that, I'll give my wife the credit. These plans that, have you seen the plans
I
that?
looked at it.
Okay. She was sitting in the car while I was signing checks at the town. And I come out and she says, why don't you just add on the end of the building? I said, well, we had thought about it before, you know, but didn't know if it was going to be big enough or whatever. And Gary at the August meeting was saying how bad the town is and, you know, like that, which, you know, and something had to be done, which we all agree. And so I was lucky enough to find the paperwork from 4 years ago and looked at it. I said, geez, maybe that is something we should, you know, we can't meet as a board without a special meeting, advertising because quorum or whatever. So I was in Delhi on whatever Monday that was. I went to Decker Advertising, Walton Reporter, had them put the ad together, so we got into the Walton Reporter so we could have the meeting
Is that a daily paper?
weekly paper.
the official paper of the town.
Yes.
There's
And,
never any legal ads or anything.
You know, that's what I got it put in is, I wanted to bring the plans to the board members, because I know two of them hadn't seen anything like this before, because they weren't on the board at the time. And just, I felt we had to do something, putting it off another week is not a good thing. I mean, and we're not, I don't know how else I'm not on Facebook and stuff, so I'm not gonna, I don't have that, I don't want that. I'm sorry you didn't find out about it until tonight or whatever. That's unfortunate, but if,
Okay, no,
Yep.
my question is answered, I understand
Okay,
that it was published.
okay,
When the minutes were just read, wasn't the 28th the last meeting? Shouldn't
no,
you read up to?
that was the 7th. Actually, Dawn wasn't at the 28th meeting.
So where are the minutes from the 28th meeting? I mean, I watched it on video, anybody can see it online.
Well, they weren't taken because Dawn wasn't there, I'm sorry. She couldn't make the meeting.
Oh, I
so-
understand, she's not
Yeah.
expected to be every place.
Right.
But nobody else had a pen and pad to take,
Tony had the minutes of it.
It's up on
It's on the internet.
She saw it on.
I
Right.
saw it, that's what I'm saying, but it
We
seems
deputized.
to me that this was really
Sure.
rushed, really.
It was
fast.
rushed, yes, it
And I
was.
don't think that was fair. I was at the meeting on August 7th,
Yep,
and I know the condition of that building, I've been in that building, I get the whole thing with the lease and the railroad museum, I get it. That's not where the town facility should be. And adding on to the facility that we already have, great idea, it just makes common sense and that's where it should be, great idea. But I don't understand.
we haven't decided a thing on it, we just discussed it that night, I believe, we didn't decide on anything. No motion, it was a bullshit session.
It was
Sorry,
an
that's what it
informational
was.
meeting.
Took measurements.
We went out and took measurements, what footage we had and stuff. I'm sorry you didn't see it in the paper. We did
I mean,
our
that's your
diligence.
responsibility to notify every person in the town that you're gonna have a meeting, or you're gonna, that's not what I'm saying. I don't understand why the
Why-
meeting was held, why couldn't it wait until tonight? Because then you can hold a special meeting 30 times.
This is nitpicking.
I guess we didn't have to, it was my own,
I wasn't talking to you.
this is,
You have the floor.
okay, okay.
I'll
Please, please. I'll take fault for this, because the board members, I called them after I did the fact and said, I want to have a meeting on the 28th, I want to get this started, because days will count. I know it probably won't make a bit of difference, because it's going to take us till next spring before we get anything done. But if we don't get it started, I felt, I had the opportunity to do it. I said, let's talk about it, let's discuss it, let's get something started. Yes, Don?
Well, and like you just mentioned, that you can't, if two of you meet, it's gotta be a public meeting, essentially, or three. So to have all of our members on the same page, it did give an opportunity to bring them up to speed as well as to start the
Right, I
thought
mean,
process.
they had 4 or 5 days' notice. I guess I might have called them a week ahead, but I'm not sure, it wasn't too far ahead. And just said, can you please make the meeting? And they did, I thanked them for showing up. Paul was there, and Brian, Donnie, and Tony, I guess. And I thought we had a great discussion.
And Pete Bevilacqua.
Pete Bevilacqua, he came in, yes.
Gary came in too.
Yeah, Gary came in too, Gary
For
did.
future reference, then we'll refer to the Walton Reporter.
Yes.
There's an
You
addition.
It was a little box on the bottom. I
Yeah, no,
had a tough time.
I
Well,
had
it
to go
was
to
too,
Daily
is
Star,
tonight's
it was a
meeting is
daily
here.
paper, but
And we wanted to get out the tape measure and see exactly what measurements
The
we
site
were
was
dealing
there.
with. It was going to, by holding it there so that all of us could kind of be there, get a look and see if it was even feasible, if it was sensible, and then bring it to the meeting and be able to say, listen, folks, this is what we think it's possible, we think it's doable, and these are ideas that have been kicked around. With the meeting being here, it would be almost impossible for us to all get up from it, drive all the way to Franklin, take out a tape measure, and say, listen, this is the diagram, this is the idea, this is what we got, this is what we need to do, this is what we want to do, Actually, at that meeting, the initial layout plan wasn't as big as what, after we all got there and got looking at the different things, the possibly taking the wires down, moving the electric, that enlarged our building substantially. And so with that, it kind of gave us, to get the ball rolling, we're still a long ways from being where we think we can go somewhere with it, but we're hopeful.
And the money is coming from,
Well, we've got a building fund that we started generating 4.5 years ago when I became supervisor. I thought, the town hall was in the future. And so we've been putting about between $20,000 and
Mainly because we
$25,000.
knew that the status of the railroad commission and the status after Walter died, that
Sure,
sadly,
thought
we
there
were
would be email.
not going to be able to further along on that housing
and
instruction.
the money that you're talking about is actually coming out of the highway money.
Or
No.
reserve fund.
Well,
No.
no.
We have a
Actually,
building
we have a
account.
building account that
It
we,
didn't just appear with a balance.
pardon?
If you look at a budget, you'd probably see a line item for a building that's been there.
Okay. Can I read something? It's the
Sure, go ahead.
Franklin Financial Condition dated March 2018 from the Office of the New York State Controller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yep.
And it specifically says, the board did not effectively monitor the town's financial condition. Again, I said it last month, I'll say it every month. I blame nobody, I'm not saying that there's 10 cents missing. I just don't understand the process. Anyway, here's what it says. The board's 2018 adopted budget for the TOB Highway Fund includes plans to spend $110,000 of fund balances to finance recurring expenditures. However, this is almost $23,000 more than what is available. Since 2015, the board has budgeted for and used the TOB Highway Fund balance to finance budget shortfalls in the TOB Highway Fund. This practice has caused the total TOB Highway Fund balance to decrease by 59%. So, my question was, the money that you're putting towards this building in a building fund came from where? It had to come out of one account to go into the,
No, it was raised
No,
by
it came out of
taxes.
taxes.
Just came out of taxes. We actually, and that's what we're gonna correct this year. Go ahead, Paul.
The balance in the building savings is $102,378.70, which got there through the budget, through the tax money, and also through extra cell tower rent on the carrier that got added. That's how the money got there. Has absolutely nothing to do with the highway at all. Are we clear?
no.
Okay, we're not clear.
Nope. Are you the deputy fiscal officer?
Yes.
Okay, so the deputy fiscal officer told us, now this is Napoli's office, that the fund balance for all funds was inaccurate because he had not recorded interfund loan activity and was in the process of investigating and correcting past errors. Therefore, then we go back into the AUDs again, which we resolved at the last meeting.
The fund balance on the computer, on my software, that's correct.
What's correct?
The fund balance was wrong on the computer, yes.
Okay,
But everything is straightened out. Everything, I don't understand what you're asking me, but it has nothing to do, this money for this building has nothing to do with the highway department. And you're mixing everything up. I don't know what you're trying to accomplish, but
I'm not trying to accomplish anything. I'm not a confrontational person, but I,
okay.
We plan on fixing this balance through this year's budget line. We're gonna increase the money into that budget. Into that
You have a
line.
reserve fund that you set up 4 years ago for a building fund, is that the one?
That's
That's
correct.
what I understand?
That's
Yes.
correct.
And it's separate if you look at your town budget line, there's a separate line for that
For
account,
that.
and the balance that you just discussed. There's nothing changing with the highway funds.
Right.
So what she's reading from him, he doesn't have his facts right?
Well, what the state does is that all of our accounts are separate. Our funds are separate. We have a general A, we have a general B, we have a highway DA, we have a highway DB. Well, the state wants to make it simple, so they just say town outside the village. So they're combining the general A with the DA and the general B with the highway DB, when they're not they're not in any way connected, except when it comes to how they figure their tax bills and stuff, but it's not, the money doesn't change hands, you understand? So, basically, all this money that was in the General A has always been in the General A, and the building fund is in the General A. It has nothing to do with the highway fund. And when they say the fund balance has decreased, it has decreased. And the reason it was so big was because of the floods in '06 and '07. We amassed a bunch of money from FEMA, and then we built bridges, so then we went in the hole, and then FEMA paid us back for our large projects. You don't get paid until you finish them. So then we got the money back. So that's where the balance was. So in order not to raise taxes to stay under the 2% cap, we had extra fund balance, and yes, we did use that fund balance. But that highway fund balance was used in the highway department. Never was it used for the building, like you're alleging.
Okay, so you just kept the tax under the 2% by using those fund balance, the money that you got from FEMA back eventually.
Yes, correct.
So you were in a hole for a while till that money came back.
Yeah, if you go back and look in the past, the fund balance fluctuates up and down.
Well, the town did take bonds of $2 million.
We were up to $4 million.
Up to $4
We
million.
borrowed up $4 million.
Right.
For those repairs.
For those
For
repairs.
those bridges, yeah.
So when
Just the
FEMA paid you,
bridges.
you just paid them
And
off.
paid off.
That's
yeah.
correct. Now FEMA never reimbursed us the interest, so it actually cost the town about $200,000 in interest that was never reimbursed. Yet this town is not in debt, so I don't think there's really any issue here whatsoever.
No, there wasn't an issue,
But-
just a question.
An explanation, and I appreciate your spending the time explaining.
And I assure you, when they did the whole deal, if they had found that we had money that we were pulling and shuffling back and forth, that would have been surfaced and highlighted. So in other words, if we were pulling out of the highway fund to establish this building fund, they would have definitely made a note of that, and it would have been spoke out very clear. Because that's one thing that they make an issue of. My understanding is they felt that was what was going on in the village.
Well, I think when you do interchange funds, and I stand, correct me if I'm wrong, there is some public notification you could put out if you're gonna move funds from one to another legally, if you had to do that. I'm not saying you had to do that, but that, I believe that's one of the ways you would move from different funds, the ones you listed. If you wanted to move money into somewhere else without.
If it was a permanent move, yeah, I mean, but
So you
everything
would have a
we
public
do,
vote
don't
if
get
you
me
wanted
wrong,
to
we do transfer inter-fund money.
Right.
And that's the way it works, because we don't get reimbursed our CHIPS money until we pay it. And we don't have all, if you look at our budget, we don't have all that money, so we have to do an inter-fund transfer to pay those bills. We turn the bills in, and then CHIPS reimburses us, and then we do an inter-fund transfer back. But at the end of the year,
My point was that sometimes there's funds you can't just interchange, but you can do it with a public vote, you can do it if you had to do it. I'm just saying
Well,
that's what
that's
you had to do.
different. That's if you have a reserve.
For specified. for
Right, we
certain-
don't have any certain
We don't have-
reserves. We
Right.
have special savings.
Okay, but I mean,
Which
just-
do not
just next
require-
week, don't, you know,
Right, but that's what it is, and Paul does a great job at that, because like last year, we got $360,000 or around that amount, the 15th of December. And all the work was done in September and October, so the companies wanted to be paid, and we paid the companies.
Absolutely.
So, and Paul borrowed from Peter to pay Paul, and so he didn't have to borrow any money, but after the 15th of December, he refurbished the accounts. You know, we have a legal account that we got money from the pipeline for a road use agreement and stuff, for legal fees and stuff. You know, anything that's not, that isn't pending that it's gonna be spent somewhere else, they'll borrow that for a month or whatever, then refurbish it instead of going